It is peak hurricane season, but is there anything to even talk about or even track out in the Atlantic? We'll speak on that. As far as tracking, I'll give you the answer right out the dot. There is nothing. But we will speak on a couple areas of interest over the next 1 to 2 weeks that we need to watch for tropical development. Am I concerned about any of this? Absolutely not. But it is the middle of hurricane season, and we need to continue to give you updates on the tropics just so nothing sneaks up on us or anything like that. So we'll do that. After that, we'll speak on a cool down that'll stay with us for a while for the eastern U.S. So if you're a fall weather fan, you'll like that part of the video, and I know I am, so I'm already excited about this next round of fall weather. And I say next because we've already been very lucky across the eastern U.S. With all these cool downs, these chilly fall-like mornings. I mean, it started back in late August. It's continued into September, despite a few really warm, hot days, which we're going to see this time of the year still. It's been very nice. It's been a nice, very nice transition from summer to fall. After that, we'll speak on today's weather, and then we'll round it off. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So, is there anything to talk about right now? I'll circle a couple things on your screen here and make sure this works, and it is. This looks a little interesting down here in what we call the MDR, main development region, but as of right now, it's not gaining really any support. It doesn't really have any support from model guidance, and the National Hurricane Center does not have this circled area dubbed an area of interest or anything like that. Watching some activity here kind of generated off some sort of upper feature, but once again, nothing dubbed an area of interest from the National Hurricane Center with this, and just a lot of activity off the eastern shoreline from a cold front. So you're just getting a lot of showers and storms along that boundary and sort of east of it. This is nothing unusual for this time of the year really at all. A little bit of activity in the Gulf, but I will mention that all this activity you see right here will actually have a play. It's just lower pressure on giving us a continuous feed of cooler temperatures across the eastern U.S. So the flow is kind of getting pulled down and just allowing for a lot of northeasterly flow over the next week for the eastern states. We will watch some wave activity as always this time of the year. Coming off Africa, but nothing to really speak heavily on whatsoever. So we'll continue to move forward here. The latest from the National Hurricane Center says, hey, nothing to worry about between now and the next 7 days, and I would completely agree with them. So no areas of interest, nothing like that. And this is pretty uncommon considering the fact that September 10th is the Climo peak day for hurricane season. So we're 2 days away. We're pretty much in peak hurricane season right now. And I know a lot of people, I've read it in the comments over the last week or so, just think that this season is a bust. I mean, it's kind of disrespectful to call it a bust. We want it to be that so it doesn't, negatively impact anyone's lives. If we're going to get any tropical systems, we want to keep them out in the ocean. But listen, it's wild how people have a short-term memory of what can happen in the second half of hurricane season, which I would argue is always more dangerous than the first half. In mid to late September, October, I mean, we had Helene in late September last year. We had Milton. So things can pick up fast. So just keep that in the back of your head, and just remember that we're not done yet. We will be sooner than later, but we got a long ways to go still. But I will say the latest from the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. Now, there'll be another one of these that gets issued tomorrow, and I'll be interested to see how they update this going forward. But basically from the 10th to the 16th, so the middle portion of this week, through the weekend, basically, it's saying, watch out for a tropical development here in maybe the areas of the northern and northwest Caribbean, the southwest Atlantic, and the Gulf. It says there's a 20% chance of tropical development in this red and white striped area. Same thing out here in what we call the tropical Atlantic, or MDR. We have a 20% chance for tropical development. So saying, hey, we probably need to watch maybe a tropical wave, see if it can develop. And then between the 17th and the 23rd, which is when I think it could get more active. Now, I did say the 10th. I said about a week or so ago that I thought by the 10th we'll probably be tracking something again. And it would probably be by the 10th before there's any kind of threat again. Well, I'm going to be wrong on that. I don't think we'll be tracking anything by the 10th, and I certainly don't think there'll be a threat. So I was completely wrong. Completely wrong. And the reason that I was wrong is because we were looking at the favorable MJO phase, and it was supposed to work into, you know, the Gulf, the Caribbean, and the Western Atlantic by around this time. And model guidance has kind of backed off on that favorable period of rising air moving into the Atlantic and has really pushed it back to the later portion of September. So, you know, I think that's a big reason why me and others, but I'm only going to speak on me because I'm me, got it wrong there. But the 17th through the 23rd, I'm still saying, hey, watch the Gulf, areas of the Caribbean, the Southwest Atlantic, but it has a higher risk of a tropical wave developing in this solid red color area, so a 40% chance of tropical development. So is this backed up by, you know, model guidance or anything like that? Well, there's not a whole lot to show you, but I do want to show everything here, and I want to, you know, just kind of mention a couple areas. We'll start off around Wednesday morning here in the next couple days, September the 10th. And we do have some energy kind of hanging out down here, but does it develop any sort of defined look to it? No. So, you know, we start to get to Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this weekend. There's a little low pressure that pops up on your screen. Doesn't really get together. And we get all the way to day 10. Looks like we have some energy, but it's gaining latitude and looks like it's inevitably going to probably stay out to sea. And then we have another wave, but guys, we're getting pretty far out at this point, getting almost all the way to the 20th of September. And just to wrap this up, it does show more defined wave at the very end of the run, but it's over 300 hours out. We don't take that very serious. Now, we look a little bit closer to home. What about, you know, that homegrown activity stuff we talk about? There's going to be just a stalled out, pivoting back and forth kind of boundary over the southeast, so we need to watch some activity in the Gulf and off the coast of the southeast, and any activity that can get trapped down here, maybe over the Yucatan Peninsula, the Bay of Campeche. And, you know, we get into Friday. I am watching a little energy off the coast of Florida. It doesn't really get together too well. Then by Saturday, shows a lower pressure right here, and I think that's just going to be around for quite some time. But can anything actually gain tropical characteristics and develop? And you continue to get this going, but, you know, nothing ever gets going from that, and we get all the way out to day 10, and kind of just an unreliable time frame, and nothing ever really gets going, guys, on the Euro, really anywhere. So GFS, we have all the way out to about day 9, which is pretty much all we need to go out to. And same thing Wednesday morning, anything down here. You know, it's hard to respect the GFS right now anyways, because it's just been wrong lately a lot. But, you know, we got about a week from today, but even the GFS is showing absolutely nothing out here. Nothing in the MDR. And then we get a little bit closer to home. Like I said, probably need to watch off the coast of the southeast this weekend, consistently showing some sort of lower pressure. But anything else? Now, the GFS continues to like, and it's been liking this on and off over the last several model cycles from it, some sort of low pressure developing in the Western Caribbean and then jolting north. We start to see this a lot more once we get to the back half, the second half of hurricane season. So, you know, I honestly think that the pattern would support something like this. Now that we only can go out about till midway next week as almost a tropical storm right in here. Now, if we go and look at the run from overnight, same kind of deal. Has low pressure in the same area, and then it develops this into a tropical storm, and it's a weak tropical storm, moves this into Florida, you know, many days out. I mean, almost 300 days out. It is 300 days. So, yeah, we'll watch for that. What about the Euro AI model? Does it show anything? We'll start to speed this up. I mean, there's a wave right there as we get into next Monday. There's a wave behind it about 8-9 days from now, but it gains latitude, and in general, there's nothing. And then we look at the Euro AI model a little bit closer to home. It does like, you know, just a lot of energy off the coast of the southeast, but, you know I keep saying that, but it really doesn't develop this energy into anything. There was some model runs where it tried to develop it into a quick, weak tropical storm, but not even doing that. So nothing to really show you on that either. So just a quick peek at the ensembles. Remember, this makes up 51 members and throws it all on the screen for us. And, you know, between now and the next 10 days, it does show a little bit of a signal for some tropical wave activity. But, you know, you got something here. You got something here. But it just is not a signal that's really got my attention too much right now. There's a few low pressures hanging out, you know, over Central America, areas of Mexico, but not a strong what we call CAG signal, CAG, Central American Gyrum. It's not a very strong signal. And what that is basically a huge broad area of low pressure that spins around Central America, areas of Mexico. And sometimes on the Eastern Pacific side or the Western Atlantic side, this energy can become more defined, and all of a sudden it becomes a tropical system. And sometimes we get some nasty hurricanes off that. But not seeing a very strong signal from, you know, with that on the Euro ensemble between now and the next 10 days. GFS ensemble is a lot louder with this signal. It has multiple low pressures down here, trying to develop in maybe the Bay of Campeche. Well, not literally multiple, but it just shows a lot of scenarios where it develops tropical systems. Shows that little bit of a signal off the coast of the southeast and watch the Western Atlantic. And it does like the idea of a wave or two developing way out here in the Atlantic. But, you know, a lot of these are gaining latitude, and we just need to get a little bit more consistency with model guidance with this. And we're just not getting that right now. So we'll continue to watch this and, you know, see if there's any changes. I'm always watching the tropics this time of the year, but right now there's just nothing to worry about, honestly, or really even to watch. I'm watching because I'm a weather geek, but I mean, for the public, you know, to be super concerned about, absolutely not. So let's talk about this cool down a little bit. Well, to home, right? Not closer to home, but at home. So we're waking up to a chilly, I mean, downright cold morning for early September standards up in areas of the upper Midwest this morning. And the bluer colors you see on your screen, the cooler colors like the blues and the greens, this is anywhere from a few degrees below average to 10 to 15 degrees below average. So I know this kind of confuses people sometimes, but the important thing is you got to know what your average temperature is for this time of the year. And there's multiple ways to find that out. You can get down your local news report and locally in your area, or sometimes the Weather Channel app shows it. The National Weather Service shows it for your area, but there's many ways you can see it. But anyways, so we start this off today. You can see the below average temperatures are dominating the eastern half of the country. And we take this into Tuesday. These stick around Wednesday, Thursday, and it does begin to warm up a lot, like along the Mississippi River area, points west especially. So we kind of knock down these cooler than average temperatures, and they get replaced with warmer than average temperatures. But the cooler air sort of hangs with us in the extreme eastern U.S., especially east of the Appalachian Mountains. And I mean, heck, even getting into the weekend, getting into early next week, we're still hanging on, especially the I-95 corridor, just a little west and east of it, to slightly below average temperatures. Now, eventually, about the 7 to 10 day range, it does look like everybody begins to warm up except the western U.S., and you finally get the cool down you guys deserve. But you know, we saw this too about a week or so ago, and models ended up flipping back to cool. But, you know, it's inevitable that it's going to warm up again, right? We saw it for about 3 days or so across the South this weekend into late last week. And, I mean, we're still going to get warm days. I mean, I don't think we're done with low 90-degree high temperature days at all for the Deep South. And we can get those clear into October. So, it's not, we never get a clean switch from summer to fall. Now, maybe further north you guys do, but, you know, you're always going to have a transition period almost everywhere across the lower 48. Now, that transition period is a lot quicker for certain areas. It's a lot slower for other areas. But, you know, the best way to look at what kind of air mass we're dealing with, and for example, you're going to walk outside this morning in areas of the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, but especially, you know, the Carolinas and Georgia and Virginia, especially the east, further east you are in these areas. And you're going to say, okay, well, there's the fall temperatures that we felt early last week. They're back again, and it's going to feel crisp. For example, it's about 64 degrees at my house right now here in Columbia, South Carolina. and the dew point's about 58. So, not super dry air, but once you get dew points in the 50s, that's when you can walk outside and, you can kind of breathe, right? So, I mean, these are pleasant conditions for early September standards. So what you're looking at is that dew point map. So your dew points in the 60s and 70s, especially 70s, is more humid air. Once you get into the 50s and lower, that's drier air. You're not going to feel really any humidity outside. So we start this off for tomorrow evening, and you can see just the lower dew points kind of just remain in place, especially across the Northeast. But, you're basically getting a consistent northeasterly flow. It's different. The flow's a little different in certain areas, but just that is just funneling, kind of giving us a consistent feed of dry air across the eastern U.S. And this is going to allow for our low temperatures to get pretty low. I mean, not the 40s and 30s, but into the 60s and 50s. And it just continues into the weekend. We could have actually another trough that kind of slides down to the northeast. This could kind of reinforce the dry air feed all the way down to the southeast. And this is where the Appalachian Mountains help us in North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee. It kind of allows for a better funneling mechanism. Dry and cool air quite literally gets trapped east of the Appalachian Mountains. And this continues, though. I mean, you continue to get this drier look, these lower dew points. You can see it's certainly a lot more moist across the middle of the country with dew points more so in the 60s, all the way up into the Dakotas. But, I mean, all the way into early next week, I mean, it finally looks like it begins to get a little bit more moist as we start to get, like, early to midway next week. So what I'm trying to say is these cooler temperatures are with us for a while, and these are predicted low temperatures based off the National Weather Service, not just a model, but the experts of the National Weather Service. Look how cool it's going to be tomorrow across the Northeast. I mean, we're going to get widespread freezes in some of these higher elevated regions. I mean, look at the mountains down into North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, lows down to the 50s and 40s. I mean, but even, the Charlotte down to Columbia, Atlanta, lows in the 50s and 60s. Raleigh, I mean, we're even going to get some 40s outside of the higher elevated regions. So nice. This is Wednesday. This is Thursday. And look at this. This is Friday morning. This is Saturday morning. Still cooler temperatures across these areas, all the way down to the southeast. I mean, in Georgia, Alabama, and then Sunday. I mean, six days from now, we're still getting cooler temperatures. It's warming back up, like I said, along the Mississippi River, especially west. But, I mean, we continue to get a nice return flow across this area. Now, we look at high temperatures. This is tomorrow. These 80s down to Georgia and the Carolinas, heck, even northern Florida, this is low humidity 80s. This isn't a humid 80s, if that makes sense. But, you start to warm up across, once again, like the Mississippi River area points west and east. But us, tucked in more so for the eastern U.S. states, it's nice. And, yeah, I mean, we might start to warm up into the mid to upper 80s. Thursday and Friday across Georgia and South Carolina, but I still think it'll be a low humidity upper 80s. And then it could cool back down for the weekend. So, unfortunately, it's warming back up for you folks, further west. But, it looks to remain nice for an entire week. And, for fall weather fans, that the colorful leaves and stuff, who doesn't like that kind of stuff? I'm a sucker for that. This is a nice... This is good for the mountains. The mountains have gotten a good bit of rain, not too much, not too little. They're getting these cooler temperatures, and we're already starting to see a transition in the colors as far south as North Carolina. Some of these elevated regions, like above 5,000 feet, an area that's well known in southwest North Carolina is called Graveyard Fields. It's an area that normally changes before everybody, and you're already starting to see low color. So I know you're probably starting to see it in the upper Midwest now. So. Nice conditions, guys. As far as today's weather, let's get this in motion for you. It's a very quiet morning. We got a little energy going across Kansas. But, I mean, there's nothing really to mention that's worth, hooping and hollering about, if you will. And, I mean, this is reflected well by the watches and warnings map here on your screen. Now, not everything shows up on this, but there is nothing really. I mean, some advisories out there that's not showing up on this map, but man, I haven't seen a map this clear in the morning in a long time. As far as severe weather chances, there is a marginal risk up here in Minnesota and a very small section of the Dakotas. Don't think that'll be a huge deal. Now, this is a tricky event right here from Dodge City down to Pampa, Borgore, Perryton, Woodard. You guys, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, marginal risk around it, and the tornado threat is at a 2% risk. Wind threat, 5%. Hail threat, 15% risk of hail exceeding 55. No, that's winds. Sorry, I was about to sneeze and it threw me off, but the sneeze went away. 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. This is a very isolated severe weather risk. I was looking at model guidance and there just wasn't a lot of storms showing up on the models, but we'll speak on it here in a second. But no real risk of flash flooding, just a couple areas that have a 5% risk. The southeast, not a whole lot to speak on except for Florida, just getting tropical downpours because this cold front is not going to clear out Florida this time of the year. So you guys are along and south of that boundary, which means you'll continuously get widespread showers and storms basically from Jacksonville point south. And, just some low pressure off the coast of the southeast. This will continue to I'm telling you, it's interesting how this works, guys. There's a lower pressure here. So what's happening is this is actually helping to funnel in dry air like across these areas as flow wraps around this low pressure. So, but not a whole lot of weather expected across the southeast. Northeast, kind of the same deal after kind of a dreary weekend for certain areas. It'll be a nice day. Some showers will try to work into Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, maybe Cape Cod tomorrow morning, but I don't think it'll be a big deal at all. The south central U.S., this is where we'll watch for some strong to severe storms, but we take it all the way to this evening, and there's 1 or 2 storms showing up right there in the panhandle of Oklahoma. But man, there really isn't a whole lot to show y'all with this. But I would just be careful if you live in this area right here, for some strong to severe storms. There's just not much showing in this area at all. So it's going to be kind of an isolated risk, but you could get 1 or 2 storms that could produce some large hail and even a tornado. But definitely not a lot showing up to really show y'all. And then some rain could get going once again, eastern Kansas, western Missouri. So could wake up to a wet start there. Check it out. Look at these winter temperatures up here in the upper Midwest, an area of the country I would love to live, especially in the UP. I know a lot of people have heard me already yap my jaw about that multiple times, but anyways, you're getting this is what fall feels like up here. So this is kind of almost winter type temperatures for us to the south where I live. But you're waking up to some areas that are probably below freezing. But there's a lot of areas in the 30s and 40s, and just a sign that the seasons are changing up here for sure. I mean, this is some chilly conditions. So definitely going to need a light coat. I know you guys' standard for cold is a lot different than ours down to the south, but definitely be aware of this. But as far as any weather today, not expecting much at all. Some shower and storm activity will get going though for the northeastern sections of Minnesota. So be aware of that. This energy will cross over portions of Lake Superior, and by the time we get into this to tonight, a lot of heavy rain will go over most of the UP of Michigan. So if you like a rainy night, tonight is your night across the UP, and just some thunderstorms are possible in central Minnesota, and these could hit strong to severe limits in the northern Wisconsin too. So, but this is really getting into tomorrow morning. I forgot to show the western U.S., so let's try to pull this up real quick for you. All right. And one thing we'll watch for is a trough moving in place, a lower pressure. So we'll actually get some rain across areas of Oregon, Northern California. Not near as active in the Rockies than what we've seen over the last couple weeks, but you can see a lot of rain moving into, like I said, those areas in the states over here. But elsewhere, it's a quiet day. Not much going on at all. The eastern U.S., it'll feel like fall for September standards. I mean, it's nice. These 80s even down here for the southeast. I mean, this is low humidity 80s. And it'll just be a nice fall-like day. And then temperatures across the west. this is what you're looking at. Definitely warming on back up, but I do think a cool down's on the way. It already is looking a little bit cooler in the western U.S. So, well, that's all I got, guys. Kind of entered a lull between everything, which is kind of weird for, this part of the year with hurricane season, but we'll continue to figure stuff out as we go. I continue to ask for prayers for YouTube situation. I'll probably have an answer probably sometime today, I'll imagine. But if you don't know, then I'm not going to dive deep into it again, but just I guess consider it an unspoken prayer request for me, and I really appreciate it. But of course, haven't answered the comments or went over the prayer requests over the weekend. I typically do that for the weekend on Monday afternoons when I have some downtime. So I'll get caught up with everything. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. Appreciate everything. You guys have a wonderful start to your work week. And yeah, God bless. We'll talk soon.